Daniel Cooper stood at the window of his apartment, staring at the stars above the city. 10 years had passed since that terrible day. 10 years since he lost his wife Lisa. The pain in his chest never really went away. It just became something he learned to carry, like a heavy weight that never left his shoulders. His daughter Amy was 15 now. She was doing her homework at the kitchen table behind him. Daniel could hear her pencil scratching against paper. She looked so much like her mother. The same dark hair, the same bright eyes, the same way of biting her lip when she concentrated. Sometimes it hurt to look at her. Sometimes it was the only thing that kept him going. Lisa had been a scientist. She studied alien life forms and plants from other worlds. It was dangerous work, but she loved it. Daniel remembered how her eyes would light up when she talked about her research. She would describe strange creatures and beautiful alien flowers with so much excitement that even he started to care about them. 10 years ago, Lisa left on a mission. She was part of a crew on a research ship called the Horizon Explorer. They were supposed to study some planets near the Andromeda sector. It was meant to be a 6-month trip. She kissed Daniel goodbye at the spaceport. She hugged 5-year-old Amy and promised to bring her back something special. That was the last time they saw her. 3 months into the mission, the Horizon Explorer stopped sending messages. The military sent search ships, but they found nothing. No wreckage, no survivors, no clues. The ship and everyone on it had simply vanished. After a year of searching, the military declared everyone dead. Daniel received a letter of condolence and Lisa's military benefits. It felt like receiving a bill for a life that was stolen. Daniel tried to be strong for Amy. He cooked her meals, helped with her homework, attended her school events. But at night when she was asleep, he would sit alone and wonder what happened. Did Lisa suffer? Was it quick? Did she think of them in her final moments? The questions never stopped, and there were never any answers. He continued working as a pilot for the Earth Defense Force. Flying gave him purpose. In space, surrounded by stars and silence, he could pretend that Lisa was still out there somewhere. That maybe somehow she was looking at the same stars and thinking of him too. The computer on his desk made a soft beeping sound. Daniel ignored it at first. It was probably just another work message. But it beeped again, more insistent this time. Amy looked up from her homework. "Dad, your computer is going crazy," she said. Daniel walked over and looked at the screen. There was a new message, but it was different from normal messages. It was encrypted with military-grade security. The sender was listed as unknown. His hand shook slightly as he opened it. The message was short. Just a set of coordinates in deep space and one word: alive. Daniel stared at the screen. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. It had to be a mistake, or a cruel joke, but then he saw something that made his blood run cold. At the bottom of the message was a biometric signature, a unique code that only one person in the entire universe could have. It was Lisa's signature. "Dad? What's wrong?" Amy was standing beside him now, trying to see the screen. "You look like you saw a ghost." Daniel couldn't speak. He just pointed at the signature. Amy leaned closer, then gasped. She had seen her mother's signature before on old documents and family records. "Is this real?" she whispered. "Is Mom alive?" "I don't know," Daniel said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. It could be a trap. Someone could have stolen her signature data. But what if it's real? Amy grabbed his arm. "What if she's really alive out there? We have to check. We have to go." Daniel looked at his daughter. She had tears in her eyes, but there was also hope there. More hope than he had seen in 10 years. He wanted to protect her from disappointment. He wanted to tell her not to hope for impossible things. But he couldn't do it. Because he felt it too. That tiny, dangerous spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, this was real. "Let me make some calls," he said. "I'll talk to my commander. See if we can send a ship to check those coordinates." But even as he said it, he knew what would happen. The military would take weeks to approve a mission. They would ask questions, demand proof, form committees. And all the while, if Lisa was really out there, she would be waiting. Alone. Thinking they weren't coming. Daniel looked at the coordinates again. They were in a restricted sector called the Veiled Expanse. It was controlled by an alien empire called the Calarians. Humans weren't supposed to go there. It was dangerous and illegal. He made his decision. "Pack a bag," he told Amy. "Just essentials. We leave in 2 hours." "What? Really?" Amy's face lit up. We're going after her? We're going to check it out, Daniel said carefully. But Amy, you need to understand. This might not be what we hope. Your mother might not be there. This could be dangerous. I don't care, Amy said firmly. She's my mom. If there's even a chance she's alive, I have to try. Daniel nodded. He felt the same way. After 10 years of emptiness, of questions with no answers, he finally had a direction to go. Even if it led to disappointment, even if it led to danger, it was better than sitting still and wondering. He went to his closet and pulled out his old flight suit. It still fit, though it was tighter than he remembered. He gathered navigation equipment, emergency supplies, and his service pistol. He didn't know what they would find at those coordinates, but he wanted to be ready. Amy packed quickly, throwing clothes and personal items into a bag. She moved around her room one last time, looking at old photos on the wall, pictures of her and Lisa from before. A family that used to be whole. We're coming, Mom, she whispered to a photo. Hold on. We're coming! 2 hours later, Daniel and Amy stood in the hangar where his ship was kept. The Pathfinder was a small reconnaissance vessel, fast and maneuverable, perfect for a journey into forbidden space. As Daniel ran through the pre-flight checks, he thought about what he was doing. He was stealing a military ship, taking his underage daughter into danger, breaking about a dozen laws. His career was probably over. He might end up in prison, but none of that mattered, because somewhere in the darkness of space, Lisa might be alive. His wife, Amy's mother, the woman they had mourned for 10 years. And if there was even the smallest chance of finding her, he would take it. The ship's engines roared to life. Daniel guided the Pathfinder out of the hangar and into the night sky. Behind them, Earth grew smaller. Ahead of them lay the unknown. And somewhere in that vast darkness, perhaps, a miracle was waiting. Amy sat in the co-pilot seat watching the stars stream past. Do you think she'll remember us? She asked quietly. Daniel reached over and squeezed her hand. She never forgot us, Amy, I'm sure of it. No matter what happened, wherever she's been, she carried us in her heart, just like we carried her. The Pathfinder jumped to faster than light speed and they left Earth behind. Their journey into the unknown had begun. The journey took 3 days. 3 days of traveling through empty space, following coordinates that might lead to nothing. Daniel barely slept. He kept checking the navigation system, making sure they were on the right path. Amy tried to stay positive, but he could see the worry in her eyes. They were both thinking the same thing. What if this was all for nothing? On the morning of the 4th day, they entered the veiled expanse. The space around them looked different here. There were strange clouds of purple gas floating between the stars. Occasionally, they passed ancient-looking structures like monuments left by civilizations that no longer existed. Daniel had heard stories about this place. Most of them were warnings. Dad, I'm picking up something on the scanner, Amy said. She had been learning to use the ship's systems during the journey. Multiple ships, big ones. They're coming toward us. Daniel's hands tightened on the controls. How many? 5, no 6. They're surrounding us, the ships appeared on the view screen. They were unlike anything Daniel had seen before. Sleek and elegant, with smooth curves and a silver-blue color that seemed to glow. These were Calarian vessels. He had seen pictures in military briefings, but they were even more impressive in person. A voice came through the communication system. It spoke in English, but with a strange accent. Human vessel, you have entered Calarian space without permission. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Daniel had no weapons to power down. The Pathfinder was a scout ship, not a fighter. He activated the communication system. This is Daniel Cooper of Earth. I'm not here to cause trouble. I received a message from these coordinates. I'm looking for someone. There was a long pause. Then the voice spoke again. We know why you are here, Daniel Cooper. We have been expecting you. Follow our ships. Do not deviate from the course we give you. Any attempt to escape will be met with force. Amy looked at her father with wide eyes. They were expecting us, how? I don't know, Daniel said. But we've come this far. We have to see it through. The Calarian ships formed an escort around the Pathfinder. They guided Daniel deeper into their territory, past more gas clouds and ancient structures. After an hour, something massive appeared ahead of them. It was a ship, but calling it just a ship didn't do it justice. It was the size of a small city, with towers and domes covering its surface. Lights glowed from thousands of windows. It looked like a palace floating in space. What is that thing? Amy whispered. A palace ship, Daniel said, remembering his military training. The Kalarians build them for their royal families. I've never seen one this big before. They were directed to land in a hangar that could have held 100 ships like the Pathfinder. As Daniel powered down the engines, he saw Kalarian guards waiting for them. They wore elegant armor that looked both ceremonial and functional. Each carried a weapon that hummed with energy. "Stay close to me," Daniel told Amy as they left the ship. "Be polite. Don't touch anything." The guards surrounded them but didn't point their weapons. One of them, taller than the others, stepped forward. He had the typical Kalarian features. Tall and thin, with silver skin and large eyes that seemed to see everything. His face was hard to read. "Daniel Cooper and Amy Cooper," the guard said. "You will come with us. The royal court wishes to see you." They were led through corridors that looked like they belonged in a museum. Beautiful artwork covered the walls. Sculptures stood in alcoves. Everything was designed with a grace and elegance that made Daniel feel clumsy just walking through it. Other Kalarians stopped to stare at them as they passed. Most looked curious. Some looked hostile. Amy grabbed Daniel's hand. She was trying to be brave, but he could feel her shaking. He squeezed her hand reassuringly, though he felt just as nervous. Finally, they entered a massive chamber. It was circular, with a high ceiling that seemed to glow with its own light. At the far end, raised on a platform, sat a figure on a throne. She wore robes that shimmered with colors Daniel couldn't name. This was clearly the Empress, but Daniel barely noticed her, because standing beside the throne, wearing strange robes that mixed human and Kalarian styles, was someone he recognized, someone he had dreamed about every night for 10 years. Lisa. She looked older. Her hair was longer and styled in a way he had never seen. She wore jewelry that was definitely Kalarian. But it was her. He would know her anywhere. Know the way she stood, the shape of her face, the exact shade of her eyes. Amy made a sound that was half gasp, half sob. "Mom?" Lisa's eyes locked onto them. Tears immediately started flowing down her face. She took a step forward, then stopped. She looked at the Empress as if asking permission. The Empress nodded slightly. Lisa walked down from the platform. She moved slowly, like she couldn't quite believe they were real. When she reached them, she fell to her knees and pulled Amy into her arms. She held her daughter like she would never let go, sobbing into her hair. "My baby," Lisa whispered. "My beautiful baby. You're so big. You're so grown up." Amy was crying too, clinging to her mother. "I thought you were dead." "Everyone said you were dead. I know. I'm so sorry. I tried to send messages. I tried so many times." Lisa looked up at Daniel. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was so much emotion in them. Love, regret, pain, joy, all mixed together. "Daniel, you came." Daniel knelt down beside them. He wanted to touch her, to make sure she was real, but he was almost afraid. "I thought I lost you," he said, his voice breaking. 10 years, Lisa, 10 years of not knowing." "I never stopped thinking about you," Lisa said. She reached out and touched his face with trembling fingers. "Both of you. Every single day. You have to believe that." "I believe you," Daniel said. He finally allowed himself to embrace her, to feel her warmth and solidity. She was real. She was alive. After all this time, all this pain, she was here. They stayed like that for a long moment, a family reunited after a decade of separation. The Kalarian court watched in silence. Even the Empress seemed moved by the scene. Finally, Lisa pulled back slightly. She wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. "There's so much I need to explain. So much you need to understand about what happened and why I couldn't come home." "You can explain everything," Daniel said. "We have time now, do we?" Lisa looked back at the Empress, then at the guards around the room. There was something in her expression, something that made Daniel's relief start to fade. "Daniel, Amy, I need you to understand. Things are complicated here. Very complicated. I'm not just a prisoner who was waiting to be rescued." "What do you mean?" Amy asked. Lisa stood up slowly. She helped Daniel and Amy to their feet. "I mean that I have responsibilities here. A position, a role that I can't just abandon." She paused, taking another deep breath. "And I have—" "There's someone you need to meet." A door at the side of the chamber opened. A Kalarian woman entered, holding the hand of a small child. The child was clearly mixed. She had human features, but with Kalarian elements. Her skin had a slight silver tint. Her eyes were larger than a human child's. She looked to be about 9 years old. The child saw Lisa and smiled brightly. "Mother!" she called out in perfect English. Daniel felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Amy made a small sound of shock. Lisa looked at them with tears streaming down her face again. "Daniel, Amy, this is Kira. She's my daughter." "Your daughter," she said to Daniel. "Well, biologically, she's more complicated than that, but in every way that matters, she's ours." "She's your sister," she said to Amy. The little girl walked over to them. She looked up at Daniel and Amy with curiosity and hope. "I've wanted to meet you for so long," she said quietly. "Mother talks about you all the time." Amy stared at her mother in shock. "You have another daughter? You have a child here?" "There's so much to explain," Lisa said desperately. "Please let me explain everything. It's not what you think. Or maybe it is, but there are reasons, good reasons." Daniel couldn't speak. His mind was reeling. He had found his wife after 10 years. That was supposed to be the happy ending, but instead he had walked into a situation he couldn't begin to understand. Lisa had a life here, a daughter here. What did that mean for them? The Empress spoke for the first time. Her voice was deep and musical. "Daniel Cooper, Amy Cooper, welcome to our empire. There is much you need to learn about what has happened in the past 10 years. About why Lisa is here and why she cannot simply leave. About what she has done for our people and what it has cost her." Daniel looked at Lisa, at this woman he loved, who suddenly seemed like a stranger. "Tell me everything," he said quietly. "Start from the beginning." They sat in a private room away from the royal court. It was beautifully decorated with both Calarian and human elements. Someone had tried to make it comfortable for both species. Lisa sat across from Daniel and Amy. Little Kira sat beside her mother, watching the humans with curious eyes. Lisa began her story. "When the Horizon Explorer was attacked, we didn't know what was happening. One moment we were doing research. The next moment we were surrounded by Calarian ships. They disabled our vessel and boarded us. We thought we were going to die. Why did they attack you?" Daniel asked. "They were desperate," Lisa said. "The Calarians were dying out. Their entire species was facing extinction. About 100 years ago, they started using genetic engineering to make themselves smarter, stronger, better. It worked. But it had a side effect nobody expected. They lost the ability to have children naturally. Each generation had fewer births. They had maybe 2 or 3 more generations before they would all be gone." Amy was listening carefully, though she kept glancing at Kira with a mix of confusion and resentment. "What does that have to do with you?" "They tried everything to fix the problem. Every technology they had, every medical procedure. Nothing worked. Then they discovered something about humans. Our DNA is incredibly adaptable, more than any other species they'd encountered. They thought maybe, just maybe, humans could help them. So they kidnapped you," Daniel said. His voice was cold. "Yes, they took our ship and brought us here. At first they kept us prisoner. They wanted to study us, experiment on us. I was terrified. We all were." Lisa's hands were shaking as she spoke. "But then I met the Empress. She was different from the military officers who captured us. She was desperate, yes, but she wasn't cruel. She explained what was happening to her people. Showed me their empty nurseries, their schools with fewer students each year, an entire civilization slowly fading away." "That doesn't make it right," Amy said angrily. "They still kidnapped you. They kept you from us. I know it wasn't right. But Amy, they gave me a choice. They said I could help them find a solution or they could take more drastic measures. They were considering raiding Earth, taking humans by force. Hundreds, maybe thousands of people. I chose to help to prevent that from happening." Daniel leaned forward. "What kind of help?" Lisa looked at Kira, then back at Daniel. "I'm a geneticist. I studied alien biology. They needed me to figure out if human and Calarian DNA could be combined. Not through natural reproduction, that was impossible, but through advanced genetic engineering, creating hybrid embryos in a laboratory. And you succeeded," Daniel said, looking at Kira. "Eventually, yes. It took 3 years of research. 3 years of failures and small successes. But finally, we did it. Kira was the first successful hybrid. Half human DNA, half Calarian. She proved it was possible." Kira spoke up for the first time. Her voice was small but clear. "I'm not naturally born like other children. I was made in a laboratory. But Mother loves me just the same." Lisa pulled Kira close. "I love you more than anything in this world," she said fiercely. "You're my daughter in every way that matters. But where did the human DNA come from?" Daniel asked. though he was afraid he already knew the answer. From me, Lisa said quietly. I volunteered my genetic material. I thought if I was asking other humans to contribute, I should be the first. Kira has my DNA combined with DNA from a Kalarian donor. In a sense, she's my biological daughter, though not conceived in the traditional way. Amy stood up suddenly. So while we thought you were dead, while Dad was raising me alone while I cried myself to sleep missing you, you were here making a new family. It wasn't like that, Lisa said, tears flowing again. Amy, I thought about you every single day. I begged them to let me send a message to let you know I was alive. They refused for years. They said it was too dangerous, that Earth might attack if they knew what was happening here. I was a prisoner with a fancy title. But you stayed, Amy said. Even after Kira was born. You stayed. Because I couldn't leave her, Lisa said. She's my daughter. And by then I had created something bigger than myself. After Kira, other hybrids were born. Dozens of them. Children who existed because of my research. I couldn't abandon them. And I couldn't abandon the hope of preventing a war between Earth and the Kalarian Empire. Daniel had been silent, processing everything. Finally he spoke. Tell me about the other humans. The crew of the Horizon Explorer. What happened to them? Lisa wiped her eyes. Most of them chose to stay. Once they understood what was at stake, many of them volunteered to help. Some provided genetic material for the hybrid program. Some fell in love with Kalarians. Some just decided they wanted to be part of building something new. They made families here. And the ones who wanted to leave? There was a group about 20 people. After 5 years, when the program was stable, the Empress let them go. They returned to Earth. I wanted to go with them. I wanted to see you so badly. But I couldn't. Kira was only 3 years old, and the Empress said I was too valuable, too symbolic. I had become the face of human-Kalarian cooperation. Amy sat back down, but she wouldn't look at her mother. Did you even try to come back? Every day, Lisa said. I fought with the Empress. I cried, I begged. But they wouldn't let me go. And as time passed, it became more complicated. The hybrid children needed me. The program needed me. And I started to understand that what we were doing here was important, not just for the Kalarians, but for all of humanity. We were proving that different species could work together, could even create new life together. Daniel stood and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the vast expanse of the palace ship. Somewhere out there were dozens of hybrid children, proof of what Lisa had created. This is a lot to take in, he said. I know. I'm so sorry. I never wanted any of this to happen this way. If I could go back and change it. But you can't, Daniel said. He turned to face her. Lisa, I need to know something. If you could leave now, right now, would you come home with us? Lisa looked at Kira, who was watching her mother with worried eyes. Then she looked at Daniel and Amy. The pain in her face was clear. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know if I can make that choice anymore. I have a daughter here who needs me. I have work that isn't finished. But I also have a husband and daughter on Earth who I love more than life itself. How do I choose between my children? How do I choose between my families? Before anyone could answer, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. A voice spoke urgently in the Kalarian language over the intercom system. Lisa's face went pale. No, not now. What's happening? Daniel asked. A guard burst into the room. He spoke quickly in Kalarian to Lisa, who stood up immediately. There's a fleet approaching, she translated. A large one. They're from the Coalition. The message they sent says they're here to eliminate the hybrid program. They're calling the children abominations. What? Amy stood up. They're going to attack? The Empress is trying to negotiate, but they're not listening. They say that mixing human and alien DNA is a crime against nature. They want to destroy all the hybrid children and capture the human genetic samples. Lisa looked at Daniel with fear in her eyes. This is what I was afraid of. This is why I tried to keep everything secret for so long. Kira clutched her mother's hand. Are they going to hurt us? Lisa knelt down and hugged her daughter. I won't let anyone hurt you. I promise. Daniel's military training kicked in. How long until they arrive? Less than an hour, Lisa said. Do the Kalarians have defenses? Yes, but the Coalition fleet is bigger. Much bigger. Daniel, there are 300 hybrid children on this ship. Most of them are younger than Kira. If the Coalition breaks through... Daniel made a decision. Take me to the Empress. If there's going to be a fight, You'll need every pilot you can get. I've been flying combat missions for 20 years. You'd fight for us? Lisa asked in surprise. For the Calarians? Daniel looked at Kira, then at Amy. I'd fight for innocent children who don't deserve to die because of politics. And I'd fight for my family. All of my family. Amy stood up too. I want to help. Absolutely not, Daniel said. You're staying somewhere safe. Dad, I'm not a little kid anymore. If there are children who need protecting, I can help protect them. I can help evacuate them or something. Daniel wanted to argue, but there wasn't time. The alarms were still blaring. Lisa was already moving toward the door with Kira. Fine, but you stay away from any fighting. Understood? Understood. They ran through the corridors toward the command center. All around them, Calarians were preparing for battle. Soldiers were putting on armor. Pilots were rushing to their fighters. Parents were taking their children to sheltered areas. Daniel Cooper had come here to find his lost wife. Instead, he had found a new daughter, a complicated situation and a war he never expected to fight. But as they ran through the palace ship, he realized something. Family wasn't always simple. Sometimes it was messy and complicated. Sometimes it asked you to be brave in ways you never imagined, but it was always worth fighting for. The command center was chaos. Calarian officers were shouting orders in their language. Screens showed the approaching enemy fleet. It was massive, at least 50 warships. Daniel had never seen a coalition force this large. They meant business. The Empress stood at the center of it all, calm despite the crisis. When she saw Daniel and Lisa enter, she nodded to them. Daniel Cooper. Lisa says you are a skilled pilot. I've had my share of combat experience, Daniel said. We need every advantage we can find. Our fleet is strong, but they outnumber us significantly. The Empress gestured to a Calarian officer. General Voran will brief you on our fighter capabilities. General Voran was a tall Calarian with scars on his silver skin. He looked like someone who had seen many battles. Beside him stood a human woman in military uniform. She looked about 50 years old with gray in her hair and sharp eyes. Daniel Cooper, the woman said. I'm Captain Helen Hayes. I was the commander of the Horizon Explorer. Daniel recognized the name. You stayed here voluntarily? I did. I married Voran. We have a daughter. Hayes smiled slightly. Life is strange sometimes. But right now we need to focus on keeping everyone alive. Let me show you our fighters. They moved to a tactical display. Hayes pointed out the Calarian fighter squadrons. We have 60 fighters available. Fast and maneuverable, but lighter armor than coalition ships. We'll need to use speed and tactics to make up for the numbers disadvantage. What about the hybrid children? Daniel asked. Where are they being taken? To the central core of the ship, Voran said in heavily accented English. Most protected area. But if the coalition breaks through our lines, reaches the palace ship, nowhere will be safe. Daniel studied the tactical situation. The coalition fleet was in standard attack formation. They would come in hard and fast, trying to overwhelm the defenses. We need to divide their forces. Make them fight in smaller groups instead of one massive wave. How? Hayes asked. Daniel pointed to the nearby gas clouds. These clouds interfere with sensors, right? We use them, send small fighter groups to harass their flanks, make them think we have more ships than we do, force them to split their fleet to chase us. Then we hit the divided groups with our main force. Voran looked impressed. Bold strategy. Risky, but might work. I'll lead one of the harassment groups, Daniel said. I know how coalition pilots think. I can keep them chasing long enough. The Empress spoke up. Daniel Cooper, you risk your life for people you just met. For children who are not your own. Why? Daniel thought about Kira's scared face, about Amy wanting to help, about Lisa torn between two families. Because they're children. That's reason enough. And because my wife helped create them. That makes them family in a way. You don't abandon family when they're in danger. The Empress studied him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Humans are strange creatures. But brave. Very brave. We are fortunate to have you as allies. Lisa pulled Daniel aside. You don't have to do this. You just got here. You could take Amy and leave before the fighting starts. You know I can't do that, Daniel said. Besides, where would we go? They'd just chase us down, and I won't leave you here to face this alone. Not again. I'm scared, Lisa admitted. Not for me. For Kira, for Amy, for all the children. I know, but we're going to get through this. Daniel kissed her forehead. I didn't find you after 10 years just to lose you again. Amy was helping evacuate children to the safe zone. She moved through the corridors with a group of young hybrids, keeping them calm. Kira stayed close to her, helping translate for children who didn't speak English well. "Are you scared?" Kira asked Amy quietly. "Terrified," Amy admitted, "but we can't let them see that. We have to be strong for them." "You're good at this," Kira said. "Being brave. I always wanted a big sister. I hoped you would be like this." Amy looked at her half-sister. She was still processing everything, still hurt and confused about the situation. But looking at Kira, she saw just a scared 9-year-old who needed protection. "I always wanted a little sister too," Amy said softly. "I just didn't know I had one." Kira smiled, and for the first time, Amy smiled back. In the hangar, Daniel climbed into a Calarian fighter. It was different from human ships, with unfamiliar controls and a cockpit designed for taller beings. But the basics were the same. Throttle, weapons, shields. He could work with this. Hayes climbed into the fighter next to his. "Just like old times," she said over the communication system. Except the old times never included alien ships and fighting to protect hybrid children. "Life keeps getting stranger," Daniel agreed. "Cooper, Hayes, your wing is ready." Voron's voice came through. "You will have 12 fighters. Lead the coalition forces into the purple gas clouds. Our main fleet will engage when they split formation." "Understood," Daniel said. He fired up the engines. They hummed with power, different from human engines but strong. "All wings form up on me. We're going hunting." The fighters launched into space. Daniel led his squadron away from the main battle lines toward the gas clouds. Behind them, the massive coalition fleet was approaching. He could see them on his sensors, an overwhelming force of warships and fighters. "They're launching their attack wings," Hayes reported. "Looks like 100 fighters, maybe more." "Perfect," Daniel said. "The more they send after us, the fewer to attack the palace ship." "Stay tight, everyone." "Once we're in the clouds, split into pairs. Keep moving, don't let them pin you down." They dove into the purple clouds. Visibility dropped immediately. Sensors got fuzzy. Daniel relied on instinct and skill, weaving between gas formations. Behind him, coalition fighters followed. They were angry, chasing what they thought was a small, vulnerable group. "Break now," Daniel ordered. The squadron split apart, pairs of fighters going in different directions. The coalition fighters had to choose which targets to follow. They spread out, losing their formation strength. Daniel and his wingman, a young Calarian pilot named Terra, led a group of 5 coalition fighters deeper into the clouds. The enemy pilots were good, staying on their tail, firing whenever they got a clear shot. Daniel's shields absorbed the hits, but they wouldn't last forever. "Now, Terra," Daniel said. They both hit their brakes hard. The coalition fighters shot past them. Before the enemy could react, Daniel and Terra opened fire. 2 coalition fighters exploded. The other 3 scattered. All across the gas clouds, the same thing was happening. Calarian fighters using the terrain, using tactics, picking off the coalition forces. It wasn't enough to win, but it was buying time. Meanwhile, the main coalition fleet reached the palace ship's defense line. The Calarian warships opened fire. Space lit up with weapons fire and explosions. It was the biggest space battle Daniel had ever seen. "All harassment wings fall back to the main line," Voron ordered. "We need every fighter for the defense." Daniel turned his fighter around and headed back. On his sensors, he could see the battle. The Calarians were holding, but barely. The coalition had more ships, more weapons. It was only a matter of time. Then something appeared on the edge of the sensors. New ships, a lot of them. "Unidentified fleet entering the sector," a Calarian officer reported. They're human ships. Earth Defense Force." Daniel's heart skipped. "Say again?" "Earth Defense Force, 20 warships. They're hailing us." A new voice came over the communication channel. Daniel recognized it immediately. Admiral Grant, his commanding officer. "Calarian forces. This is Admiral Grant of the Earth Defense Force. We received a message from Captain Daniel Cooper explaining the situation. We're here to help. All coalition forces stand down immediately or face the combined might of Earth and the Calarian Empire." The coalition fleet hesitated. They had expected an easy fight against the Calarians alone. Now they faced a combined human-alien force. "This is your only warning," Grant continued. "The children you want to harm are under Earth's protection. Attack them and you attack us." The coalition commander tried to bluff. "The Earth government does not speak with one voice on this matter. Many on Earth agree with us." "Maybe," Grant said. "But I'm here. With 20 warships and the full authority of the Defense Force, you want to test me? The Coalition fleet began to pull back. They were brave, but not brave enough to fight both humans and Calarians together. Slowly they retreated, their ships disappearing into faster-than-light travel. Daniel let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. They had won. The children were safe. He guided his fighter back to the hangar. When he climbed out, Lisa was waiting for him. She threw her arms around him, crying with relief. "You did it," she said. "You actually did it." "We all did it together," Daniel said. He saw Amy and Kira running toward them. Amy was smiling, really smiling, for the first time since they arrived. The Empress approached with Admiral Grant. "Thank you," she said to the Admiral. "You saved many lives today." Grant looked uncomfortable. Captain Cooper's message was very convincing. He made us see that the hybrid children aren't a threat. They're just kids. Earth doesn't make war on children. "How did you even send a message?" Lisa asked Daniel. "When did you have time?" "Before we left Earth," Daniel admitted. "I recorded everything I knew and set it to send if I didn't check in after a certain time. I figured if something went wrong, someone should know the truth." The days after the battle were busy. Earth and the Calarian Empire began formal negotiations for an alliance. Admiral Grant stayed on the Palace ship, working with the Empress to create treaties. The hybrid children, who had been so scared during the attack, slowly returned to their normal routines. Daniel watched it all happen with a strange feeling in his chest. He had accomplished what he came to do. He found Lisa, she was alive. But now what? What happened to a family that had been separated for 10 years and had grown in unexpected directions? He found Lisa in her laboratory. She was looking at samples under a microscope. The same way he remembered her doing on Earth so long ago. Some things never changed. "Amy and Kira are together," Daniel said, sitting down beside her. "I saw them in the garden level, teaching the other children some Earth games." Lisa smiled. "They're getting close. I'm grateful for that. I was worried Amy would never forgive me." "She's processing a lot," Daniel said. "We both are. But she has a good heart. She sees that Kira is innocent in all this." Lisa put down her work and turned to face him. "Daniel, we need to talk about the future, about what happens now. I know. The Empress offered to let me leave. After what happened, after Earth came to help us, she said I've done enough. I could come home if I wanted to." Daniel's heart beat faster. "And do you want to?" "Yes," Lisa said immediately. "God, yes. I want to see Earth again. I want to sleep in our old bed, walk in our old neighborhood, have dinner at our favorite restaurant. I want my old life back. But," Daniel said, hearing the hesitation in her voice. "But Kira," Lisa said softly. "She's my daughter. I can't leave her here. But if I take her to Earth, she'll be a stranger there. A curiosity. Maybe worse. Some people think like the Coalition. They might see her as an abomination. Some people, maybe," Daniel said. "But not everyone. And she'd have us to protect her." "You'd really accept her? Raise her as your own daughter?" Daniel thought about it honestly. "Lisa, I won't lie. This is all hard for me. Finding out you have another child, that you've built a life here, it hurts. But when I look at Kira, I don't see something wrong. I see a brave little girl who helped save my life during the battle. I see someone who makes Amy smile. I see your daughter. And if she's your daughter, then she's family." Lisa started crying again. She seemed to cry a lot these days, as if 10 years of held-back emotions were finally flowing out. "I don't deserve you. You deserve everything good in the world," Daniel said. "You saved an entire species from extinction. You prevented a war. You sacrificed your own happiness for others. You're a hero, Lisa, even if it cost us both 10 years. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Lisa said, "The Empress offered me something else. A position as Earth's ambassador to the Calarian Empire. It would mean traveling between both worlds, helping maintain the alliance. I could spend time on Earth, but also come back here regularly. What do you think about that?" "I think it might be the answer. I could be with you and Amy on Earth, but I wouldn't have to completely abandon the work here, or the people who depend on me. And Kira could experience both worlds, learn about both sides of her heritage." "It sounds like a good compromise," Daniel said. "But what about Amy? She's been waiting 10 years for her mother. Will she accept sharing you with another world? Why don't we ask her?" came Amy's voice from the doorway. She stood there with Kira beside her. "Sorry, we didn't mean to eavesdrop." "We came to find you." Lisa stood up quickly. "Amy, Mom, it's okay," Amy said. She walked into the room and Kira followed. I've been thinking a lot. About everything. About what happened and what it means. She looked at Kira. I have a sister now. That's weird and complicated, but also kind of amazing. And she needs you. Just like I need you. I want you to be happy, Kira added quietly. Both of you. I know my existence makes things difficult. No, Amy said firmly. She put her hand on Kira's shoulder. You don't make things difficult. The situation is difficult, but you're just a kid who deserves a family. Daniel felt proud of his daughter. She had grown up so much, even in just these few days. So what do we do, he asked. How do we make this work? Amy sat down and pulled Kira to sit beside her. I've been talking to some of the other families here. The humans who stayed and married Calarians. They make it work by being flexible. By understanding that family can look different than what you expected. Captain Hayes and General Voren, they have it figured out. What did they tell you? Lisa asked. That love is more important than tradition. That home isn't just one place. And that family means supporting each other even when it's hard. Amy looked at her parents. I want to go back to Earth. I want to finish school there, see my friends, live a normal life. But I also want to come back here sometimes. Visit Kira, help with the hybrid kids, be part of this new world that's being built. And I want to see Earth, Kira said shyly. Mother tells me stories about it. About oceans and mountains and cities with millions of people. I want to experience where I come from. Half of who I am comes from Earth. Lisa looked at Daniel. Could this work? A family split between two worlds? Daniel thought about his life before. It had been simple but empty. He had been going through the motions, raising Amy, doing his job, but never really living. Now everything was complicated, messy, difficult, but it was also full of possibilities. People have made long-distance relationships work before, he said. This is just a really long distance. And we have technology. Video calls, fast ships, regular visits. It won't be easy, but nothing worth having ever is. The Empress entered the laboratory. She had a habit of appearing when important decisions were being made. I have a proposal, she said. Daniel Cooper, you showed great skill and courage in battle. We need someone to lead our joint military operations with Earth. Would you accept the position? It would mean living here part-time. Daniel looked at his family. Lisa, hopeful and tired. Amy, growing into a strong young woman. Kira, shy but brave. 3 people he loved, though one of them he had just met. 3 people who needed him. I accept, he said. On one condition. My family comes first, always. If they need me, work waits. Agreed, the Empress said. She smiled, which was rare for her. The Cooper family will be the bridge between our peoples. The symbol of what can be achieved when species work together. 6 months later, Daniel stood in the backyard of their house on Earth. They had moved to a bigger place, one with enough rooms for everyone. Lisa was inside cooking dinner, trying to remember recipes she hadn't made in 10 years. Amy was at the table doing homework and helping Kira with her Earth history lessons. Kira was enrolled in school now, and despite some stares and whispers, she was making friends. Admiral Grant had visited last week. He admitted that he had been wrong about the hybrid program. Meeting Kira and the other children had changed his mind. They weren't monsters or threats. They were just kids who happened to have 2 species in their DNA. Daniel's communication device beeped. A message from Captain Hayes on the Palace ship. There was a situation developing that needed his input. Work calling like always. But for now he had this moment. His wife in the kitchen. His daughters together, laughing about something on Amy's computer. A family that was bigger and stranger than he had ever imagined, but a family nonetheless. Lisa came to the door. Dinner's ready. Come inside. Daniel took one last look at the sky. Somewhere up there among those stars was the Palace ship, the Calarian Empire, a whole other part of his life now. He would go back there next month, not as a visitor, but as someone who belonged. He walked inside and sat at the table with his family. Amy was telling a story about something funny that happened at school. Kira was listening with wide eyes, still learning about Earth teenage culture. Lisa served food, her hand briefly touching Daniel's shoulder as she passed. This was his life now. Complicated, split between worlds, never quite simple, but it was full of love, full of purpose, full of the unexpected joys that come from opening your heart to more than you planned. 10 years ago, he lost his wife. He spent a decade in grief and loneliness. But in the end, he didn't just get her back. He got more than he lost. A daughter who grew strong in his absence. A new daughter who showed him that family isn't about biology, a purpose bigger than himself. As they ate dinner together, talking and laughing, Daniel realized something. Sometimes the best families are the ones you never expected, the ones that form not from one simple story but from multiple stories that weave together, Earth and space, human and Calarian, past and present, all of it combining to create something new. Amy caught his eye and smiled. Kira reached for more food, already comfortable in her Earth home. Lisa laughed at something, the sound Daniel had missed for 10 years. He had searched for his lost family and found them. But more than that, he had found a new way to be a family, across stars and species, through sacrifice and courage, with love at the center of it all. And really, wasn't that what humanity did best? Not conquering or dominating, but connecting, building bridges, loving across boundaries that others said were impossible to cross. That was the human gift to the galaxy, not technology or weapons, but the simple, revolutionary act of seeing others as family. Die.